everyone. I'm Sarah Hostetler, a member of the Everyday Advocacy team, and I'm excited to welcome two colleagues to join us today from the University of Missouri. Angie Zapata and Candace Kuby are here to talk with us about how they employ the ideas of everyday advocacy in their day-to-day work as educators. We've invited them both here today to talk about a specific intersection with everyday advocacy, and that is their grant work with early literacy teachers in the state of Missouri. If you could tell us a little bit about that advocacy project, how it came about, and how you're currently taking it up within your specific context, that would be a great way for us to get started.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, first, Sarah, thank you. Thank you so much. Candace and I are so pleased to have this time to chat with you and to share a little bit about what has been invigorating and exciting work here in Missouri. We have the honor of bringing leadership to an early literacies component of a larger comprehensive state literacy development grant funded by the Department of Education. This grant has been awarded to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education here in Missouri. So as sub-awardees, Candace and I, again, lead that early literacies component. We are in partnership with the Show Me Literacies Collaborative, which is a collective of literacy leaders, researchers, teacher educators who are firmly rooted in the National Writing Project work, as well as the Missouri Language and Literacy Center. So this collective of us, with this commitment to enhancing developing language and literacies education here in Missouri, are working hard here with DESE for this work. In particular, as I shared, but Candace and I are really focused on this early literacy, language and literacy development. And we have the pleasure of working with a collective of about 17 to 20 early childhood settings across the state, primarily in the Kansas City and St. Louis metro region, and one school in our mid-Missouri rural area. And what an experience it has been for us to really engage in this work. I think you're asking us also to speak a bit to how we're practicing everyday advocacy. And one of the things we found, as broadly as the Show Me Literacies Collaborative, but also as Candace and I find ourselves really understanding the nuances of being an early childhood educator in today's educational setting, we're really committed to enhancing our early childhood educators' self-efficacy as early literacy educators, as early literacy leaders, and really allow them to reclaim this narrative of expert, creative, intellectual, in lieu of the popular narrative of early childhood educator as babysitter. Really trying to elevate and amplify and professionalize that narrative. So I think one of the most important things we do as just foundational across the team, with the support of DESE, is really valuing our early childhood educator existing expertise. In this era of quite a bit of scripted curriculum that's beginning to just permeate the boundaries of our early childhood settings as well. Being in conversations with teachers, helping and positioning them to actually collaborate and talk to one another, to share about the existing expertise, has been really fundamental in nurturing those really trusting relationships so that we can continue to develop and grow in our practice. I think one of the things is in helping us to again also begin to value that expertise is nested not only in relationship, but under helping teachers and thinking with teachers about what are those just general needs and assets that already exist in their classroom, among students and families, but also in their own practice. So as we move forward, we're just continually grounded in what seems to be unfolding well and supporting and impacting a positive learning environment for your classroom and for your practice. Candace, did you want me to also speak to time, or did you want to speak to anything else as well there?
Sure, I'll talk a little bit about time. So just to build on what Angie said, I mean, as the leaders on this grant, we also wanted to practice advocacy for the teachers that we're working with. And so one way is related to time and compensation. And so it was really important to us as we're asking teachers to think with us over the summer, to work with us and share about their schools and the families they work with. is to compensate them for their time with us. That was really important, but also to provide opportunities for teachers to go back and receive a master's degree or a statewide reading certification. And so it was really important to us as well, as part of this grant work, is to advocate for teachers to have space to continue to grow professionally in communities beyond what Angie and I are providing, but in classroom settings, in master's programs. And so that was really important to us, and we're excited to see how they're thinking about the coursework, what work that they have in relation to the work that Angie and I do with them, and as we come into community together over the summer. So I think that sense of supporting them with time, but also compensation for their time, and also compensation in order to further their own credentials and their own learning in professional communities and higher education.
Mhm.
I love that. Thank you so much. I'm hearing some themes are rising to the surface for me, and not just in this conversation, but in the work that we've done together. Is that you are emphasizing the professionalism of these educators and recognizing that they are already doing really important literacy work in their classrooms. So we're supporting them while they are supporting their students in this critical work. And so it's advocacy at a variety of different levels tying together. The teachers are advocating for their students, you're advocating for the teachers, and the grant work itself is advocating for you and the value of the work that you're doing across the state. The next question is how you might advise people who are interested in similar work, and knowing that this is a significant grant and the scale and the scope of it is quite large. What might it look like at a smaller, more local level? What kinds of advice do you give to teachers in your cohort who are interested in taking up similar work, maybe at a smaller scale?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head regarding that the work we're doing is at a much larger scale. This is a statewide endeavor, but I think the practice of valuing teacher expertise, valuing teacher time, can certainly manifest in many different ways and at a smaller scale. Among the first pieces of advice I have is don't feel like you have to do all this by yourself. Find your people, find your colleagues, find your squad, that's going to support you in these commitments to, again, continue to elevate and develop your own practice and your care for yourself as a professional, as a professional. So that's the first thing. Don't feel like you have to do this by yourself. And sometimes those networks or that building of the team, sometimes we're lucky enough that we have folks right next door to us that can be the folks who are nudging us along and ready to receive our inquiries. Sometimes we have to reach out beyond our the bounds of our school properties and look at community networks. It's really, I think, a really exciting time to be a teacher given the number of social networks that are available virtually as well. That teachers here in Missouri can connect with teachers in Buffalo, New York, or
Yeah.
across the globe. So those networks of support, there are ways to tap into those networks, I think, as well.
Yeah, I would say that for us, I mean, this was a 5-year grant, but I think for both Angie and myself, our research over the years has really been invested in building relationships over time. And so we approached this grant in a similar way, is that we knew for teachers to trust us and for us to be able to work collaboratively, it was going to take time. So I think my advice would be for people is, change doesn't always happen fast. Sometimes you need time to really build trust and relationships with one another. So I think that was key for our work, and I would suggest that for others as well, is to be invested over a period of time with people. And then also, a lot of our work, our grant kicked off when the pandemic started. And so we've also, and I think we've had to think about how we care for each other during some really hard times as educators. And so I think we've had to rethink and let go of things and change our original plan. So I just think the flexibility to be in response to what teachers and families, are dealing with in their, political climate, in the climate of our health when we were going through this pandemic. So that would be advice as well, I think.
Mm-hmm. Really valuing humanizing interactions has been a commitment of ours from the start.
Build, find your allies, building that relational capacity, flexibility, and I would call it like go slow to go fast, right? You don't have to, just hit the ground running necessarily. It's like, okay, well, let's be smart and strategic about how we're going to do this work. And we need to pivot at different times, and we need to be responsive to the particular moment, whether it's a global pandemic or, something smaller at the community level. Persistence too is part of what I'm hearing. You said that it's a 5-year grant. I know that this work has been happening long before that and will continue beyond that time frame. So it's, thinking about the long game, and being persistent. And I think the two of you are such a great example of what that work, that day-to-day advocacy work looks like in practice. We're so grateful for your time. Again, thank you for taking a few moments to chat with us today, talk a little bit about your work and how you see it intersecting with everyday advocacy, and for encouraging teachers to continue pushing forward and shifting that narrative in literacy education. Until next time, everyone, continue to celebrate the good work in your classroom and in your small contacts or your large contacts. And we're so glad to be with you and spend time with you. Thanks.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.